In the summer of 1974, Fred Carrasco and two accomplices take over the education center at the Walls Prison in Huntsville, Texas. They have pistols, ammunition, and hostages. Most of them women teachers and librarians. Carrasco, once an unknown teenage gang member, is now national news. Dozens of journalists descend on the prison and line up for telephone interviews with him. It's the Fred Carrasco Show, and he directs a female hostage to schedule his interviews.
We have the list for the reporters.
Okay.
George Lewis,
Okay.
NBC. Wayne Jackson, Austin American Statesman. Berto Gutierrez, Channel 5. Bernard Goldberg, CBS, New York. Enrique de la Garza.
Carrasco's takeover is featured on the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. NBC and ABC also report on it, and so does the New York Times. Texas prison officials facilitate the interviews. The fully bilingual Carrasco speaks to a variety of journalists.
Señor Carrasco, ¿cómo está? Habla Amador Rodríguez.
Mr. Carrasco, I'm George Lewis from NBC.
My name is Maury Dial with Channel 8 News in Dallas.
Hello, Fred. Yes, this is Wayne Jackson again, the Austin paper.
I'm back in Texas that summer, after my first year of college, working a construction job not far from the prison. It's not the ideal summer job, but I'm banking some money to pay for books and a plane ticket back to Boston and to school. Up until late July, the big news that summer is out of Washington.
And I think, too, that I can say that I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Richard Nixon's days in the White House are numbered. The country is in a constitutional crisis, but the troubles in D.C. feel distant. When the Carrasco story breaks, I stop paying attention to the news out of the nation's capital. Fred Carrasco is a homeboy. His story feels close.
In my men tonight, if they storm us, so we're ready to finish it off anytime. We're determined. It's either liberty or death, one or the other.
Liberty or death, leave it to Fred Carrasco to channel American hero Patrick Henry. This guy never quits. Not when he's locked up in a Mexican prison, not when he's shot and almost killed in San Antonio, and not when he's sent away for life. Now he's on the phone with reporters, rebranding himself as a political prisoner. He rails against the system, takes a page out of the Black Panthers playbook, and talks about an escape to Cuba.
But I believe that the Castro regime would recognize or would sympathize after I told them about my life and the injustice which has been done to me since I was 16 years old. The way I've been beat up, tortured, hurt by law enforcement officials, of course.
Fred's strategy works. Letters of support arrive at the prison. Carrasco addresses social issues. He attacks politicians, calls out racism and political corruption, and he gets really personal. Carrasco repeatedly attacks one man, a San Antonio detective named William Big Bill Weilbacher. Carrasco lashes out at Weilbacher. In interviews with reporters, Carrasco accuses him of the murder of his associates.
Y dice usted que estos fueron Weilbacher y el otro detective. ¿Sabe usted quién fueron?
Bueno, mire, fue el detective Weilbacher. One of them is Weilbacher, Bill Weilbacher. Now, these two officers that I'm talking about, they killed some people that I knew, and then they said that I was the one that killed.
Do you plan to try and kill Weilbacher? Or do you hate him that much?
Well, let's put it this way.
Carrasco's getting his revenge, taking shots at Bill every chance he gets. Weilbacher pushes back. He implies that Carrasco should not have been taken alive when he was captured the previous summer. He lived 1 year too long, he says. It's clear that Fred Carrasco and Bill Weilbacher have a long history. My years of research reveal that the two men are different in some ways, but very much alike in others. One woman I talked to sums it up this way.
The good guys and the bad guys, they were all the same people. What's the difference between Bill Weilbacher and Fred Gomez Carrasco? Except that one had a badge and a gun, and the other one had drugs and a gun.
Carrasco and Weilbacher, given their line of work, are destined to cross paths. This is episode 2, the return of Fred Carrasco, Intersecting Lives. Federico Gomez Carrasco is born in February of 1940, just after the Great Depression and as World War II gets underway. His given name is Federico, but he's called Fred. He is the 4th child of Maria Gomez, who has 3 sons from a previous relationship. His father, Jose, works at a market in the city's bustling Mexican district. Fred's early life revolves around downtown. He comes of age just east of the city center, in a working-class neighborhood and close to a big housing project. Carrasco's childhood is a bit of a mystery. A book about him, titled Fred Carrasco, the Heroin Merchant, doesn't provide much information about his early years. He attends a local elementary school but doesn't make it past the 8th grade. The little we know about his entry into a life of crime comes from Carrasco himself. While in prison, Carrasco writes his life story. The original draft makes its way to one of his attorneys. It's then translated and edited by Greg Barrios, a Chicano activist. The book is long out of print, but I find the cover and a few pages in an archive. Memories of My Life includes accounts of Carrasco's time in the Victoria Courts gang. The stories reveal a side of Carrasco that will come to define him later in life, a propensity for extreme violence. Included is an account of an incident at a birthday party when an acquaintance calls him out for his arrogance. The following is a recreation.
It reached the point where he wanted to fight me. Naturally, I got furious. He then told me to step outside. Well, I just barely stepped out when I stabbed him twice with my knife. And 3 times more as he started to run, trying to save himself. But he only got to the front of the place and he fell there.
According to Fred, the young man survives. Another kid, Manuel Garcia, is not so lucky. Garcia's part of a group involved in an altercation with the 16-year-old Carrasco.
We left the dance. We had walked about 2 blocks, but before we got to the car, this other car blocked the street and opened fire. We hit the ground. I took out my pistol and opened fire, which made them leave.
Carrasco claims he's unaware of hurting anyone in the exchange of gunfire. Only later does he find out that 15-year-old Manuel Garcia is dead. Carrasco flees San Antonio, but is eventually caught. Manuel Garcia is Carrasco's first kill, and the only one on his police record. Carrasco's incarceration for the death of Manuel Garcia is the start of almost 10 years of prison time. In 1961, he's released, but is sent back on a narcotics charge. He does time at state prisons in Texas and at several federal prisons across the country. Fred Carrasco is paroled in 1967 at the age of 26, ready to make up for lost time. William Weilbacher is born in 1928. His parents are farmers, a few miles from San Antonio. Bill is born just in time for the Great Depression. The 1940 census reports Bill's age as 11, yet it indicates he's only completed 3 years of school. That's likely a result of the economic hard times. Bill's a farm kid, but leaves for the city while he's still a teenager. By the time he registers for the draft at age 18, Weilbacher lists a San Antonio address, and soon after, he joins the Marine Corps. According to his son, Bill Weilbacher Jr., an injury cut short his dad's military career, and he returns to San Antonio.
He came on the police department, and it seemed like one thing led to another. He just started handling cases that other people couldn't handle with all of his informants and things. Every time he turned around, he had an informant have a hard case, they'd give it to him to solve.
His son tells me that Bill Weilbacher lives his job.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If he had something to do, he'd go do it. Some informant would call him and said, hey, this has got to be done. He'd go do it.
In the spring of 1955, Officer Bill Weilbacher works an undercover job in Laredo, on the Mexican border. Weilbacher's assignment is to contact a dealer in Mexico, purchase a large amount of marijuana, arrange delivery to the U.S., and arrest the suspect. But the mission goes horribly wrong. Just about everyone I talk to about Bill Weilbacher references the incident on the border in April of 1955. It's a turning point in the career of the young cop and part of the Weilbacher legend. I find an account by Weilbacher in a transcript of a Senate hearing in San Antonio on narcotics trafficking. The hearing is convened by Texas Senator Price Daniel, an ambitious and powerful segregationist. The following is recreated from transcripts of the hearing, where Price Daniel questions Weilbacher.
Tell us exactly what happened.
A young Bill Weilbacher describes crossing the border into Mexico to make a drug deal and his attempt to lure the dealer back across the border into the U.S.
His name is Angel Ramon.
Angel
Ramon, yes, sir. We went out into the red light district, and I was introduced to the peddler and tried to make a buy from him. We couldn't get together on the price and the amount, so he decided to have 1 pound of marijuana delivered to me in Laredo, Texas.
But Angel Ramon doesn't deliver the marijuana himself. He sends 2 associates across the international bridge. Weilbacher and a federal agent are waiting. The federal agent apprehends one suspect, but Weilbacher struggles with the other, a young Mexican national named Felix Linares.
As we got to the automobile, I released the hold on this Linares boy to put him in the automobile. At that time, he struck me and knocked me against the automobile and ran. I gave chase, couldn't catch the man, called to him several times to stop. He wouldn't stop.
You called to him to stop?
Yes, sir. So I fired a warning shot down towards the ground. The man fell. He was about, I would say, 90 feet from me at the time.
You know this man that was shot. You knew he had been the man with smuggled marijuana across the border. That he actually did it.
Yes, sir.
It's a softball question, and Weilbacher hits it out of the park. He needs all the help he can get. It turns out that the young man he shot isn't just a low-level assistant to Angel Ramon. 24-year-old Felix Linares is the son of a Mexican customs official, and the shooting of the unarmed suspect does not go unnoticed. William Weilbacher is charged with murder without malice. The 26-year-old faces a criminal trial and potential prison time if convicted. Senator Daniel's hearing in San Antonio is an opportunity to make his case to the public before the trial. After a change of venue, the trial takes place in June 1957 in Hondo, a small town not far from San Antonio. I scan the list of jurors and don't see any Spanish surnames. In his testimony before Senator Daniel's Senate subcommittee, Weilbacher characterizes the shooting as accidental But at the trial, Weilbacher claimed self-defense. I couldn't be sure he was unarmed, says Weilbacher. Before deliberations, the trial judge informs the jurors of the rules that govern police officers when apprehending suspects.
An officer may take those steps he feels necessary to apprehend a suspect, and no more. However, if he reasonably fears that his life is in danger, whether the danger is actually real or not, then he is entitled to stand his ground and defend himself, and even kill his assailant.
That's all the jury needs to hear. They deliberate for less than 15 minutes. William Weilbacher is found not guilty. It's front-page news in the Hondo Record, but that's not the only story that features Bill Weilbacher. He's mentioned in an article about the trial of a teenager named Ruperto Gonzalez. 19-year-old Gonzalez is hired to transport a load of marijuana from the Mexican border to San Antonio, but his car breaks down in Hondo. He hitchhikes to San Antonio to meet the buyer, who turns out to be an undercover cop and one of Weilbacher's partners. They arrest Gonzalez, take him back to Hondo to the car and the marijuana. It's a first offense for the teenage Gonzalez, who has a wife and young child. His wife says he agrees to take the marijuana to San Antonio because the family needs the money. It's a costly decision. The 19-year-old is found guilty. Weilbacher kills a Mexican kid and walks away. A Mexican teenager is busted with a load of marijuana and gets 30 years. On my trips to San Antonio, I talked to a lot of people about Bill Weilbacher. Almost all of them mentioned the story about Bill shooting a man on the border. The versions they tell vary, but the takeaway is the same. William Weilbacher can get away with just about anything. Not long after he's released from prison, Fred Carrasco falls in love. The heroin dealer, who many people say is a ruthless killer, turns out has a soft side. Rosa Leiva is a single mom when she meets Carrasco. In 1968, Fred is 28 and Rosa is 21, and from what I hear, they're like two pieces of a puzzle. A perfect fit. All of a sudden, Fred has a family and responsibilities. Fred Carrasco has the connections to earn a living as one of the many small-time drug dealers in the city. But Fred is different from others in the game. The life of a small-time drug dealer is of little interest to him. Narcotics are a commodity to Fred. Heroin is a way to make money and build power. Carrasco doesn't use the heroin he peddles. He's clean. Soon after his release from prison, Fred Carrasco sets out to build his own organization. He staffs up, brings in his relatives, and Rosas too, to help run the organization. To be successful, Carrasco also needs people on the street. He leans on local dealers to buy heroin exclusively from him. It takes me years to find people who knew Fred back then. Even longer to get them to talk to me. In 2022, I sit with an older gentleman wearing a marine jacket and a hat. It's chilly. We're outside because he isn't allowed to smoke in his small apartment. He follows the rules, but that wasn't always the case. He was a player back in the day, a heroin addict and a dealer who did time at various federal prisons. In the late 60s, Fred Carrasco requests a meeting.
Los mandó a hablar a mí y a mi hermano y quería que vendiéramos por él.
Carrasco wants him and his brother to sell heroin for him.
Y cuando hicimos la cita, estábamos preparados.
They come prepared to the meeting. They bring muscle. He tells me that Carrasco is the kind of guy who will kill you.
Porque él te mataba. He didn't fuck around with you.
At the meeting, Fred can see that he's surrounded.
Y él vio que estaba rodeado de gente allí.
But Pete says that Fred doesn't show any fear.
He didn't give a fuck. No tenía miedo. No tenía miedo. Y nunca se le quebró la voz ni nada.
I wanted to kill him. My gun was on my lap, he tells me.
Y yo lo quería matar. Yo traigo el cuentecino en los regazos por ahí.
I imagine there are many meetings like this one, where Carrasco makes his pitch. They pay off, because Carrasco builds a network of dealers. But you can't build a business without a reliable supply chain. The heroin that makes its way to San Antonio varies in quality. The delivery is inconsistent and the price fluctuates. Fred never knows exactly what he's buying. It's a business problem. Carrasco's solution reflects both his brilliance and his arrogance. The implementation will be violent, and the cost measured in lives. But that doesn't matter to Fred Gomez Carrasco. He's like a laser-focused CEO without a moral compass. His plan is to disrupt the current way of doing business, maximize efficiencies, create an excellent product, and control costs, all in the pursuit of profit and power. Anyone who stands in his way will be eliminated, literally. The San Antonio I encounter on this project is very different from the one I remember as a child. My parents raised me in isolation. They tried to protect me. I spent almost no time with other kids on the block. I can't go back and visit anyone in my own neighborhood because I don't know anyone there, and I never did. Maybe that was the price of safety and security, but it shouldn't be that way. My parents did what they thought was right. They surrounded our house with a chain-link fence. It was supposed to keep the bad guys out. It mostly worked, but it also kept us in. I was safe in a world where many others were not, and I had no clue. I'm Joseph Tovares. Join me for Episode 3, The Return of Fred Carrasco. The future is south. Fred Carrasco builds a heroin empire that extends from central Mexico to San Antonio, and he leaves a trail of blood. Watching from San Antonio is Detective Sergeant Big Bill Weilbacher, waiting for an opportunity to take Fred down. Weilbacher is as ambitious as Carrasco. He's just as wily and at the top of his game. The next time they meet will be in Mexican prison. To learn more, visit thereturnoffredcarrasco.com. Leslie Norman is the executive producer of the project. Her wisdom and guidance are much appreciated. San Antonio-based journalist Noy Mahoney's knowledge of the Carrasco story and his connections in the city were invaluable. Michelle Mondo, an amazing researcher and private investigator in San Antonio, tracked down many of the people who made this story come to life, and she unearthed long-forgotten documents. The remarkable scholarship of Mike Tapia, David Montejano, Jean Morales, Juan O. Sanchez, and Diana Montejano helped me see Carrasco in context. George Cisneros and Urban 15 offered their space for recording of interviews on many of my visits to San Antonio. The Return of Fred Carrasco is produced by me, Joseph Tovares. The idea for this podcast was developed in partnership with my late brother Raul, who passed away during the production, but whose imprint is on every episode. I miss my brother every day. And a very special thanks to my wife Munya, who allowed me to descend for several years into the dark depths of this story, and whose support for me never wavered. Gracias a todos. The Return of Fred Carrasco is a production of Joseph Tovares, LLC. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved.